Wasaman FM in Atieku on 101.9 FM. Mr. Speaker, number 9, Wontumi Multimedia Company Limited. Wontumi Multimedia Company Limited operating in Takrady on 101.3 FM.
Alpha OneTV, Musa was a face screen is what things say. Here, Gabriel Jadako, near me, funny me, papa. Just say, power no. So they'll be kind of very trickish. Until one find the Jumaya assembled before us. And then Gabriel Jadako mum and he soon say, I talk. In radio station. Now the latest news Abani say a year John Draman Mahama say there 64 a year radio stations now through Sam George and the NC or close it down a Jomalan ago or Sromo or Monsan restore no almost the imping to more matches and yasingatwa. Now no and Sam George I could more parliament house saying sister say or so radio stations no made mutum no beat me and yamulances or somewhere in maybe back me no answer or their mom yanko Sam George Borough Parliament House or confirm me radio stations upon radio stations are 1G ambulances including Wontumi in Asasi Radio Munyano or Munyana TV yanko
Per Regulation 54 of the Electronic Communications Regulation 2011 LI 1991, the authorized entity is required to construct and operationalize the station within 2 years of receiving the authorization. Before any station is permitted to go live, the station must invite the NCA to inspect the construction and installation of the station to certify that the station conforms to the standards established by the NCA for radio broadcasting in Ghana. It is upon the grant of the test transmission authorization or a certificate of compliance that the station can commence operation. This process, Mr. Speaker, is not optional. It is the legal foundation for ensuring that our national spectrum is used responsibly, professionally, and in the public interest. Mr. Speaker, the term of an FM radio broadcasting authorization is 5 years. Under Regulation 56 of the ECR 2011, a renewal application must be submitted to the NCA at least 3 months, 90 days before the expiration of the existing authorization. Failure to comply with this 90-day prior timeline results in the application or any new application being treated as a new application before the NCA. In fact, the Electronic Communications Tribunal, chaired by Justice Dateba, affirmed this position in the case of the Ghana Independent Broadcasters Association versus the NCA Appeal Number ECT/APP/002/2017. Mr. Speaker, on 12 February 2025, shortly after I assumed office as the Minister for Communication, Digital Technology and Innovation, I issued a directive to the NCA to produce a complete listing of frequency authorizations granted or renewed within the preceding 60 days. The objective of the audit was to produce an accurate and up-to-date inventory of all assigned, unassigned, and unauthorized frequency holdings in Ghana. It sought to identify cases of spectrum hoarding, detect underutilized frequency bands, and strengthen enforcement action against entities operating outside the law. Mr. Speaker, alarming revelations unearthed by the initial exercise necessitated me to expand this directive to a nationwide forensic audit of all FM broadcasting authorizations aimed at discharging our sacred duty to manage state assets with integrity. This is part of our Operation Recover All Loot initiative, ORAL. Mr. Speaker, the NCA's audit showed several cases of non-compliance with the regulation and conditions of broadcasting authorization. The preliminary audit revealed over 600 active radio stations with frequencies, many of which were inactive, expired, or improperly renewed. Mr. Speaker, as of this morning, the NCA has commenced phase 2 of our regulatory enforcement following the broadcasting regulation frequency audit. This phase targets several categories of non-compliant FM stations whose operations contravene existing laws and regulations and includes the following. Group 1, 28 FM radio stations who are currently operating with expired authorizations. Despite the NCA instructing these stations to cease operations in 2024, several of the stations have continued broadcasting unlawfully. These actions constitute a violation of Section 2.4 of the Electronic Communications Act 2008. Group 2, 14 FM stations which were issued notices of revocation for failure to establish operations within the required 2-year period following the grant of their authorizations. These stations later requested technical inspections but have not completed the process and have continued to broadcast in violation of Regulation 54 of the Electronic Communications Regulation LI 1991. Group 3, 13 FM stations which applied for authorization to continue operating and have been issued provisional authorization but have not settled the provisional authorization fees in full. Mr. Speaker, without payment of these fees, their authorizations are invalid and their broadcast is a violation of Section 2.4 of Act 775. The last group of stations that we took action on this morning are 7 FM stations who have paid their provisional authorization fees but have not yet received final authorization in fulfillment of the technical and regulatory requirements under Regulation 54 of LI 1911. Mr. Speaker, spectrum is a finite and highly valuable national resource. It is a public good held in trust for the people of Ghana. Those granted access must therefore comply strictly with all applicable legislations. Mr. Speaker, a few minutes ago, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, the President, directed that the Ministry of Communications, Digital Technology and Innovation work with the regulator, the NCA, to allow all the affected radio stations some additional time to correct the identified breaches within a defined time frame. Those who fail to do so shall have their authorizations formally revoked under the law. In line with this directive from His Excellency the President, the Ministry and the NCA have granted a further 30-day grace period to all defaulting entities. Mr. Speaker, this is not the same as the arbitrary revocations and hefty fines imposed under the previous administration. As the current government, the Ministry has also been instructed to waive all the applicable fines that should have been applied to the defaulting entities. Mr. Speaker, since morning, I have received calls from colleagues on both sides of the aisle, notifying me that some interests they may hold have been affected by the ongoing exercise. Dear honorable colleagues, we passed the laws and have a high bar set for ourselves as honorable members of this august house. We need to lead the way with exemplary conduct. As a ministry and regulator, we are status agnostic and will be fair to everyone irrespective of ethnic, religious, political, or social affiliation. Mr. Speaker, let me, just for the records, name the stations that have been affected. Table 1, FM stations that have been issued expiry of authorization letters for failure to apply for renewal. Number 1, Life World Broadcast Limited, operating in Afenyo on 94.3 FM. 2, Akpini Communication Limited, operating in Pando on 96.7 FM. 3, Victory FM in Aflao, operating on 96.1 FM. 4, Oracle Multimedia, operating in Nadoli on 88.5 FM. 5, Jewel Group Limited in Duaya Kwanta, operating on 102.7. 6, Bolton Portfolio Limited, operating in Nkoko on 96.9 FM. 7, the Ghana Institute of Journalism, operating in Accra on 97.7 FM. 8, Obrempong FM, operating in Agona Swedru on 91.7 FM. 9. KD Community Multimedia, operating in Kede on 92.5 FM. 10. Skoja Limited, operating in Joje on 94.5 FM. 11. Press Express Limited, also known as Daily Guide, operating in Accra on 91.5 FM. Obra FM Limited, operating in Takrady on 89.3 FM. Unity Broadcasting Limited, operating in Impoho, 88.7 FM. Jimas FM Limited, operating in Yeji, 102.3 FM. Kantanka Media Limited, operating in Cape Coast, 92.1 FM. Bewa Radio, operating in Yendi, 106.5 FM. Unique Gateway Communication Limited, operating in Nkoko, 105.7 FM. Ken International Company Limited, operating in Achim Swedru, 89.1 FM. Dreams Ghana Media, operating in New Abrim, 104.9 FM. Velvet Beam Foundation, operating in Asankrigwa, 92.9 FM. Magic Group Company, operating in Salaga, 101.9 FM. Don Plus Multimedia, operating in Ho, 105.9 FM. Tesla Company Limited, operating in Wa, 96.7 FM. Global Media, Tepa, 97.3 FM. IMAX Media, Tamale, 104.3 FM. Limanya Radio, Wa, 95.7 FM. Pandai Star Radio, operating in Pandai, 107.3 FM. Ebiamo FM, operating in Jomoro on 100.5 FM. They've all been shut down. Table 2, FM stations that were issued revocation notices. Act Forum Ghana Limited, operating in Akpafumimpiasem, 88.1 FM. Chinias Empire Limited, operating in Tumu, 96.3 FM. Confidence Commodities, operating in Swaman, Dadieso, 90.7. F5 Eagles Company, operating in Ajuafua, 93.7. Neat FM Limited, operating in Tamale, 105.3 FM. Primary Stars Limited, operating in Banda, 102.5 FM. Subampa Community Radio in Barakesi, 96.7 FM. Wasaman FM in Atieku on 101.9 FM. Mr. Speaker, number 9, Wontumi Multimedia Company Limited. Wontumi Multimedia Company Limited, operating in Takrady on 101.3 FM. Number 10, Wontumi Multimedia Company Limited, operating in Accra on 95.9 FM. Jimbali Community Association in Jimbali, 95.9. Kingdom Dynamic Kukrantumi, 93.3. Pro Royal Investment in Tepa, 94.7. And Resurrection Television in Takrady, 99.3. Table 3, Siadarak Enterprise in Edukrom, 95.5. Bangu Company, Tamale, 97.3. Jam Multimedia in Kintampo, 101.3. Chameleon Communication in Wa, 91.1. Chaka Multimedia in Jasikan, 88.7. Clickshot Multimedia in Shama, 89.9. Free Minds in Tema, 104.5. Gemsak Media Network in Inswatri, 103.3. Mediacast Limited in Kumasi, 102.5. Mobile Zone in Bolgatanga, 94.3. Ultimate Multimedia in Tamale on 107.1. West FM in Ho on 97.5. Western Salam Company Limited in Takrady, 89.7. And Mr. Speaker, the final table, 7 stations. Asasi Broadcasting Company Limited in Accra on 99.5 FM. Dynamic Chapters Limited in Wenchi on 95.7. Global Media Alliance in Accra on 98.9. God Steve Media Association in Atimpoku on 87.7. Rejoice FM in Mim on 101.7. Sankofa in Takrady on 98.7. and Sweet FM in Chifopraso on 106.5. Mr. Speaker, our goal is not punishment, but accountability, order, and the
Also, for when the latest news, I free parliamenters over Sam George Kwaku Pure on the communication minister. And JB our boy Juma Papa. Then why TT data so come on. Masisi amount for come Tom ye matches. I am no at it so no a best here from AFS July. I just if it's ringing amount for the air ball on some year the Emano. Because at first no man focus now no sa ministry one no come with Jenny deal. Kasa with confidence like him say actions no now so sa I don't know kasa kikana. Cause I'm on focus, I'm most other ministers here, Juma, more news, no more konomoba, prevent you, or near maybe a better Ghana for you na transparency on my Ghana for you could be now some George day. I said, not Bosch and Kwan or the Oshi without actions. Now, say no, it's my year, Juma, come on. And then that story is also 64 a year radio stations. What's me amount to 20 name? Biantinefi because more breaches some of the laws such as and what lands and watches watching na and a president Mahama just they can say no because there's how radio stations see major one for new meaning so young form because it's NDC and for propaganda or we TNDC for we news TNDC now so no President Mahama person say right to speak, freedom of speech, idea, shimukina, be criticizing them because when you're intolerance or no on authority, near ma mobile be of betiasi. Just also when you intolerance, just a performance and to say a baby or bino. To see a year some George in some from Malances and Mamma. Now, so no, see the inequity free parliament. Yes, some George and just walk within our parliament house and the update about this NEC actions in our brain. Radio stations are all doable bosono, and new radio stations get to it be crossing and ye juma. Much lances and also any who you shall grow and the lances and all. Auntie was almost clear signing money last time Grano because sad TV stations no more ye malam. Now my for a brand of free brass and a mammy sending in no some crofony in a say will do two sad TV stations in there are some radio TV stations built so far also sex near man quan or more car cause some sabi and no quan sim I just say a year. I dear was see the radio station to entertain, to educate, and to give information on mon finance and man. Modi animo. I'm for so behind the iniso. Now some George made the abba air sanitize the system, air clear some of a Sanya Matan Tina Koswa. As you say there is no law. I just say our Ghana air govern those people. Sabi day. Action now, Mahama Casa or Casa on some storm lances in our back. Some George still insists. Say what some passes some due diligence master. Some pass it through some process master and almost like lances. And yes, so we are not in Banana Air Republic or Biasri and Yama. Be behind them run a I just waiting them or parliament house. I may updates in the radio stations. The demand could tell amount for. A year parliamentarians putting in our budgets with yeah and a Wontumi TV sorry Wontumi radio station I just am in our budgets with yeah or parliament house and we don't know yeah I'm fine camera now to be as well you know so I'm in our Sunday free by I just say I just say any answer to subscribe and share money so they ain't been here for once.